So what I thought we would do really quickly, because we are running a little bit behind tonight, we had so many smachot. These are the things that, you do for love, right? And since some of you heard me speak nonstop for an hour and a half last night in our first class on death, dying, and the afterlife, we're going to keep it short, which is code for at least a half an hour. I'm just kidding. I want you to think about, I was thinking about this, so I want you to think about it too. Then I won't feel so messed up. The first time you went away from home, but like really went away from home. So going to camp, kids, doesn't count. You have to have at least taken a drive. We were talking earlier this week about moving from Brooklyn to Phoenix. Like the first time you left home, not left home to come back. Right? 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a year later. But you left home. So think about that. Does it trigger a memory you want to share with the group? And then I can always repeat it. You are so shy.
Yeah.
Not only does it not surprise me that you're the first one, but so tell me about that. You went to the Army when?
1968.
1968. And where were you first sent for basic training?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Fort Bragg, North Carolina. How old were you?
23.
23. So, how did that feel?
Not very good.
No. Because you were drafted?
Yeah.
So, you kind of go not by choice.
I was asked to go, so I went.
And by that time, we knew Vietnam was not necessarily the happiest place on earth.
That's correct.
And your parents were probably...
They were more upset than I was.
I'm sure they were. So going off to war, going off to the military at the age of 23. Someone else? Yeah, please.
We spent our entire lives in Philadelphia, we're married in suburban Philadelphia. 10 years ago, we moved out to Arizona.
Right.
It was like coming to a whole new country.
It was, and it still probably is.
Yes, it is.
So they moved from Philly 10 years ago. They were married in Philly, raised in Philly, brought up in Philly, raised their kids in Philly, and moved out here 10 years ago. So that felt, give me a word. Strange. Very strange. Yes. Yes.
First time in an airplane was on a honeymoon.
Your honeymoon on an airplane?
20 years old.
20.
And never left New York before that.
Uh-huh.
And it was...
So you took the plane from New York to?
Well, we went to Miami.
Fontainebleau?
Oh, Fontainebleau.
It was a honeymoon.
Just on honeymoon.
Fontainebleau?
And then...
Deauville.
Did you stay at the Fontainebleau?
No.
No. I was going to say, that's quite a honeymoon at 20. Was your first time leaving the island of Manhattan or the boroughs? There are still people who do not leave the boroughs because there is no world. Scottsdale is upstate. But you left on a plane at 20. That was your first time. And so how did that? You were excited because it was your honeymoon, I hope.
And went to Florida.
Yeah.
Spent all the money that we had.
That's what you're supposed to do, right? When you're young and crazy.
We moved into an apartment.
Uh-huh.
And we were very shortly, had the opportunity to move to Arizona.
Wow.
And we moved here.
You
when
came.
we were about 22, and both we had...
You figured out that the weather can be nicer than New York. So 22 left New York to move to Arizona.
But you know what? I was so excited. I came here and wrote back because we couldn't afford long-distance phone calls.
No.
And I said, my God, they have palm trees with colored lights.
Palm trees with colored lights. So she rode home. She's saying she rode home because they didn't have enough money to make the long-distance phone call because you'd have to call after midnight. Remember those days? And I remember when I would call collect from Israel to my parents, it'd have to be after 11 p.m. because my dad would yell at me that the rates were too high. And that was only like 1990. Can you imagine? How about it someone else? Yeah, please.
Yes, in 1976.
76.
We had a little trailer, and we had a 1- and a 3-year-old. We decided to move away from all our friends, which happened to be behind us.
From?
And I'm Ian's parents.
Okay.
The one over there.
So you moved from
We moved from Queens
Queens to?
to Arizona
So you had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old in a trailer?
and a trailer.
You're Jewish? What? Oh, a trailer with air conditioning. Okay, that's good. Thank you. You cooked in the trailer? Like the last time they did this was in the... That little Ian. They're totally parenting you right now. That's so cute. Yeah, please. I'm so glad I asked this question.
Ask Ian to stand up and say, he moved. He moved from Arizona. Imagine that.
You moved from Arizona, you went back? Your dad said that you have to stand up and say this. Okay. All right, we're going to have a little domestic issue now. No, so you moved back to D.C.? To New Jersey. Oh, Jersey. That's why he moved back to New Jersey, for your mama. You unknowingly. Did you go to college in Jersey? Graduate school. Where'd you go to graduate school in New Jersey? Rutgers. Okay. What'd you study? Physical therapy. Everyone wants to know. Okay. Couple more, because this is you're a little bit more participatory than normal. Yes. Dr. Moffat. It's an honorary doctorate. I just gave it to you. I'm asking you guys about leaving home. I mean, this is a couple who rented a VW bus in India and schlepped around India in the 60s, I think. But anyway, go ahead. What'd you say?
Well, this is military related.
Yeah.
Duty station in Washington, D.C. I'm young, 23 years of age, and the moving van, Allied moving van comes up to pack a 5-room house. What's a 23-year-old house? I have my bricks and a couple of planks that I use to hold my stereo system.
Absolutely. Yeah, high-class shelving.
Yeah, here's this big, huge moving van.
To move you from L.A. to D.C. How'd that feel?
That's another story.
I mean, if you can think about it, almost everyone except for those of you who... Where did you go in D.C.? Was there a base that you went to?
Yeah, there's Naval Communications.
Naval Communications, okay. So I remember getting dropped off at UC Santa Cruz. I remember the Chevy Impala being packed and moving into the dorm. And, you know, I think a lot of us probably remember the Chevy Impala. That's what I learned how to drive on. That's the one that moved me into the dorm. I remember my mother standing there. She wouldn't leave until I walked away first. You know, they bring tears and they bring joy and they bring anxiety. And except for the military guys, everyone else knew where you were going, right? You had an idea. You didn't, because you were being very awesome about it. You were going west, though, yeah? You were going to go to California, ended up here. You know, that's so funny. You were going to LA? This guy's funny. So I want you to think about all of those, because I know if I called on anyone, we'd be here till Purim. But the issue at hand is, in this week's Parsha, in Lech Lecha, as Rabbi Mason Bargan mentioned, God says to Abraham, not this is where you are going to go specifically. There were no GPS points. There was no YouTube to do research or internet to do research to see what the place looked like, right? This I joked you, but being wandering Jews is a 4,000 you come by it honestly. It's in our DNA. But there's a point to these stories, because it's very, very scary to leave your place of birth, your house, your stuff, your friends, your family. It's very scary. Fear is a huge feeling that we are consumed at. Even if you're going to college and you're so excited to move out of your house, the amount of separation anxiety over the summer in those homes between the kids and their parents is all about this fear that we feel. The difference between us and Abraham is found in the first verses of the Parsha. Go, leave your home, leave the place that you were born, leave your family, and go to a place that I will show you. This is the voice of God. This isn't family writing from another place saying, come visit or come move. They literally, he and Sarai and everyone that was with them, went blind and followed this voice. Okay? And God did give them a little bit of a deal here, which is anyone who blesses you, I'm going to bless. Anyone who curses you, if you do this, anyone who curses you, I will curse. And all the families of the earth will bless themselves by you. You think about what the Jewish people have done for humanity, right? It's like the punchline is all of those wonderful things that we have done, that our ancestors have done for humanity, God predicts 4,000 years ago to Abraham. And there is no conversation. There's no application. There's no preparation. There's no draft. The next verse, Abraham took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot and all the wealth that they had amassed where they lived, and off they went to Canaan. This is thereby the definition of faith. Abraham is the archetype, Sarai and Abraham, the archetypes for us as Jews of what it means to be a person of faith. What is Jewish faith? Jewish faith is silent, unwavering, obedient. Abraham and Sarai are loyal first and foremost to the mission and to God, and his leadership is defined by the loyalty that he has for a God, a sound, a force, whatever you want to call it. He had no clue. Sarai had no clue. But they knew that this voice, this being, and this message, that something very special is going to happen. Your descendants are going to be blessed. Your descendants are going to make a difference in this world. Something compelled Abraham to leave. And he didn't have a conversation, and Sarai didn't, believe it or not, Sarai didn't say, aren't you going to get directions? They left, they took what they had amassed, and they went to Canaan. Faith is a willingness, we learn from Abraham and Sarai, to trust despite all of those fears that we have. None of us would have ever left our homes and met our wives and learned what we needed to learn and experienced what we needed to experience without a tiny bit of a traumatic nudge. That trauma of leaving your home, the place that you were born, the place where your family is, it's trauma. It's not just fear, it's trauma. That trauma is a necessity in seeing yourself, seeing ourselves as part of the covenant of our people. The medieval commentator Rashi notes that God credited Abraham's trust and Sarah's trust to God as righteousness, as tzedakah, because Abraham did not ask for anything in return. It's hard enough to find our own way day by day sometimes. But I want to remind us, as we are filled with fear, as our world is filled with trauma, as our country is going through, yet again, a trauma, to know that faith is really the answer. Faith in knowing that it's going to be okay. Faith in knowing that we're not the first, we probably won't be the last to experience what it is that we're experiencing now as individuals, as a collective, that it's going to be okay. And we can become embittered because when we're scared, we get mad. And we can become negative because, after all, it's very hard some days to be positive. And we can lose hope and we can lose faith. Please remember Abraham and Sarah. These archetypes, these exemplars, par excellence of faith. We read these verses tomorrow morning. Our B'nai Mitzvah will read them tomorrow morning from Lech Lecha and learn what faith means. You all made those steps. We've all made those steps into adulthood, into a different context. like Abraham and Sarah, not necessarily knowing what was on the other side. But please remember, good or bad, traumatic or not, you got there. You got to your destination. But one of the things that links us to them is we get to the places that we're going because we believe in something that we can't see and we can't touch and we can't necessarily identify all the time, and that's God. Abraham and Sarah are accredited as our ancestors, the first of our ancestors, because they taught us and teach us, even today, 4,000 years ago, what faith can do. Please don't lose faith in yourself. Please don't lose faith in each other. Please don't lose faith in our Jewish community and the Jewish people, in Israel. Please don't lose faith in our country. Please don't lose faith in humanity. That's what this parsha is all about. A reminder, a knock on the door. They did it, and we are the ones who bequeath that tradition, that covenant from them. Despite any setbacks, despite any suffering, rather than running away from the call, Abraham and Sarah teach us. Judaism teaches us. It insists on trust. Trust demonstrated not by necessarily spreading the word, but by living the deeds and being present and moving forward and moving on, even if we don't know necessarily where we're going. It's going to be okay, is what they teach us. Please, on this Shabbat, know that it will be okay. We will be okay. Those who bless us will be blessed. Those who curse, it's not going to turn out so great for them. And never forget that all the families of the earth will be blessed by us, by our presence, by our deeds, by our mitzvot, by our trust, and by our faith. Shabbat shalom.